Need janitorial services, lawn care, or snow removal? Obtain a free, no-obligation estimate from Better Futures Minnesota when you let us know that you heard about us on AM 950. Our supervised, hardworking, and affordable crews will handle your interior and exterior building and property maintenance needs while you help men in the community transform their lives and walk on a positive path to success. It's a win-win. To learn more, go to betterfuturesminnesota.com under Business Services.
The Democratic National Convention is in Chicago, Monday, August 19th through Thursday, August 22nd. And the world will be watching and listening right here on KTNF 950 AM. The Devil's Advocates will bring you gavel-to-gavel anchored coverage all week in prime time, featuring the biggest political stars, all the important speeches, meet the vice presidential nominee, Kamala Harris's acceptance speech, and all the insight all week from the Devil's Advocates, live from the United Center, August 19th through 22nd.
Supporting the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities has never been easier. You'll find an expansive list of local dining options at eatlocalminnesota.com, from classic American comfort food to authentic flavors from around the world. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us. Nightingale on 26th and Lyndale is the ultimate venue for unforgettable gatherings. Whether big or small, your event will be a hit with delicious food and drinks served in a warm and inviting atmosphere. Plus, Chef Carrie's special creations add that extra touch. Craft cocktails, curated drinks, and a diverse menu make Nightingale perfect for any celebration. More at nightingalempls.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 65, then Friday rain and thunderstorms with a high of 75. Vinaigrette can add the perfect complement to your next home-cooked meal. Taste test their wide selection of oils and vinegars, and they'll bottle it for you right on the spot. Vinaigrette is located at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Check them out at vinaigrettemn.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events. And as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Daga. And this portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we have Levi Brown here, Minnesota Department of Transportation's MnDOT, for you Wisconsin people listening in, that's your WinDOT, Director of Tribal Affairs. Levi, welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Anine, thanks for having me, Robert.
Right on. We got a lot to talk about, and really appreciate you coming on. What is the role of a tribal affairs director with MnDOT? You can tell us a little bit about your job.
So one of the things that happens a lot to me is people ask that very question, and I think how I can best answer that in a short window is that it's all about changing norms. It's all about changing those historical and social norms that we all face. And what I mean by that is, in Indian country, there's always been a push upon us, whether it's for our land, for our resources, for our knowledge, whatever it is. And so we get, we've been forced to defend ourselves. And a lot of times with the state and working between tribes there's a lot of kind of combative interaction that has happened historically. And I think my role, my job, my main purpose is to connect people, connect human beings who are working for two different governments who really have the same mission in a lot of ways. And I think that sometimes we have to just step back, whether it's working for the state or even sometimes, being a tribal citizen like myself. I was our environmental land director for Leech Lake for 12 years. And before I worked for the state, I had all these assumptions of state government, state employees. And I tell you, 6 years ago, I made a transition to the state. 95% of my assumptions, I was wrong. And so I tell that to tribal leaders, tribal officials now, of like, hey, this is actually how things are done, how decisions are made. And, and that helps change those mindsets and help build those, kind of connections between people, whether it's at a tribal leadership level, commissioner level, all the way down to the staff level. But at the end of the day, Robert, it's about connecting people, about connecting human beings and getting them to want to change and make that change.
Yeah, it is about relationships, isn't it? I believe 100% that, at least in my old age right now, that's what everything is. And with things that worked out well, connecting the dots backwards was all about relationships. I was so excited to have you on here. I want you to introduce yourself and where you come from too, in a good way, Levi.
Yes. So as I was kind of talking about, I grew up, born and raised on Leech Lake, in a town called Cass Lake. Some of you might know it's about 4 hours north of the metro area. And I was born at a time where we didn't have gaming. I mean, I was born in 1982. And so the first 10 years of my life, we didn't have gaming. And so, I get that unique vantage point of remembering what it was like prior to gaming. And then sitting and watching my community now, watching other, communities kind of find their way and grow. I think it's given me a lot of insight into kind of where I'm at today. But, where I come from up north, the reservation I grew up on is 408 lakes. I was raised by my grandpa, grew up in the woods. I mean, my whole life has kind of been connected to that. And then my Western education is in political science. And, I really got my first start in this work of building those relationships when I was the environmental land director for Leech Lake. And we just went to court with Cass County in 1999, all the way to Supreme Court. So I was doing my work in 2006 as the environmental land director. And I asked, some of the older staff in our office, I said, hey, why don't we ever talk to the county? Oh, I don't know. We just don't talk to them. So I was young and full of dreams a little bit, Robert. And I reached out to the county, started having coffee with them, just talking with them. And at the end of the day, I think they were a little apprehensive of where I was selling them a lot of rainbows and beautiful days and change. But at the end of the day, I realized they were just human beings who didn't understand me, who didn't know me. They were county commissioners who, one was like an ex-sheriff. He's like 60 years old, didn't really know me. But, we humanized that conversation. I realized that a lot of times that helps build that relationship, that understanding of each other. And we became partners. Within a few years, we had signed an agreement. We were going to work together, and, the rest is history. I think Leech Lake just got 12,000 acres back, and it wouldn't have happened without that relationship with Cass County.
Absolutely. And really just reaching out. We're going to have the director and producer of Bad River on the next half of the show. And she's a white ally that did an unbelievable documentary about our history, basically. It was first about pipelines, but it was about our history. And relationships are where they're at, and knocking down those doors and finding out how common we are. I just applaud you, Levi, for being able to do that. I was a high school teacher and had to do a lot of that, not just with my native kids, but all the kids. And once we knew where we were all coming from, we could be more relaxed and more human.
Yeah, and just a kind of you brought up Bad River, and I saw that she was going to be on the back half of the show, and I our history, what's really unique about it is I'm a Leech Lake tribal member, lived there my whole life. I think I was pretty old before I left outside of kind of the general area where I lived. But one of the things I think is really cool is like our history is tied. We're all tied together. From the allotment era, I have interest of an allotment in Bad River. There's 80 acres in Bad River from which I have 1% interest in, which is, it just tells our history is still alive today. Let's put it that way, Robert. So I'm interested to hear that back part of the segment as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just got to tell you too, on a personal note, my son-in-law is a Leech Laker, and his brother, who is also a citizen too, pitched in the major leagues for 10 years. So Josh Johnson is a Leech Laker too, and we love the rice. Oh, wow.
So, okay, it's really a small world. So Josh Johnson, his uncle is Gene Rock.
Yeah, definitely.
So Gene, I knew Gene growing up. He was really good friends with my grandpa who raised me. Like Gene and him, we'd go visit him in the cities and stuff. And I remember when Josh was pitching, Gene was so proud of me. I was telling him, he's like, hey, here's my, and so anyway, small world, Robert. I think that's so cool. But that's Indian country, right? I mean, we are just, you tell one thing of who your family is and where it's at. Next thing you know, we're having dinner together, hanging out, sending you fish whenever you ask for fish or rice.
Ho! Write that down, producer Haley.
Oh, I am. Believe me.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's that's what's really fun about this show, Levi. It is a discussion. It is kind of a around the campfire discussion with our relatives, and I really feel that way with you now, Levi. It's like we have a lot in common, and in a good way. I want to ask you too. We'll swing back to MnDOT here. We only got like a minute left. We've already burned up another first segment here talking about our relatives in a good way. Oh, wow. So we'll come back and talk more MnDOT stuff. We're here with Levi Brown.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Discover the emotional depth and vivid storytelling of Jay White's Arikara proper at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This solo exhibition celebrates Arikara culture through the lens of an urban Indian perspective. Experience themes of empowerment, depictions of Native women, stars, and star quilts within White's vibrant acrylic paintings. Arikara proper is showing now through October 5th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Get inspired by Jay White's powerful storytelling on canvas. Details at allmyrelationsarts.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native-owned J.S. Bean Factory off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul. Only the good stuff keeps us awake.
We are awake. Hey, we're here with Levi Brown, Minnesota Department of Transportation's Director of Tribal Affairs. And that's a mouthful. Hey, welcome back, Levi.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got a quick question. So is MnDOT currently hiring? And if they are, what are the positions and what counties is MnDOT looking to fill some jobs?
So MnDOT is statewide, meaning that we have positions all over the Northwest region, Northeast region, Central Minnesota, Southwest, Metro, Southeast, and I think we have a wide range of positions. I mean, a lot of times people just think it's snowplow driving, maintenance work, mowing, but we have engineers, we have planners, we have GIS specialists, we have attorneys. We have, political scientist majors like me. We have people who work in between governments. I mean, our scope is so broad. And I think, when you're looking at, close to 5,800 employees, you can get the dynamics and the scope of how many different opportunities MnDOT has. I think what's really unique is that we also employ a lot of private industry. We do millions of dollars of road projects all over the state. And, those contractors are looking for tribal, members and employees as well. So it's one of those things where we really do pride ourselves on being a big economic driver in the state.
Yeah, that's exciting. And remind especially our maybe younger listeners or our family out there, there's some great benefits to work for the state, as we like to call it when I was young, the state. Can you talk a little bit about that and how really cool it would be to work for MnDOT?
I am, again, just completely, changed a lot of my mindset of the state government, working for the state. I mean, when I was really suspect going into the position, but I would be our top, recruiter, given an opportunity like this where, the health, the insurance, the workplace, the environment. I think one of the things that I've learned, working for MnDOT, how important it is to have a supportive environment, right, of where you work and you feel like you're valued. And I think when if you work for MnDOT, you're going to get that. You're going to get that feeling of family. I mean, most people who come and work for MnDOT, they end up staying most of their careers. I mean, when I started with MnDOT, I'll be honest, and my commissioner's probably listening, or could be, I only planned to come for a couple of years. I mean, I was just like, I just wanted to try something because I'd only worked my whole career for Leech Lake, and I wanted to try something different. So I had some work experience, so I could say, work somewhere else. And it's going on my 7th year. So Robert, I hope our listeners are there, and if they got questions, reach out to me or some of the other Indigenous Employee Resource Group members who are big advocates for our work as well.
Well, as you can see, really, Haley runs this show. So I want to be careful about this next question is like, how can people find out about current career openings in the Minnesota Department of Transportation other than Haley? Oh, wow.
So the best way, Robert, is to go. If you got your phone in front of you, computer, laptop, iPad, whatever, just Google Minnesota state jobs, and then look up MnDOT, Department of Transportation, and then there you can select the region you want to work in. You could select the type of area you might want to work in, depending on where your expertise is, and you can just monitor those positions. You can look at where we have openings. Or you can just Google Levi Brown MnDOT, and my contact info is there. Maybe we can share it on your Facebook, wherever it is, and people can just reach out to me. I can help guide. I mean, as you can tell, Robert, I'm pretty sociable. I have no problem just talking to people, and I think I just want to try to help people, take advantage of an opportunity, be part of that change we're talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome, Levi. And that's a good relative to be helping people, and also communication is huge for us, and I'm really excited to hear about these things. And I'm 63 years old, so I wish I would have heard about these when I was young and had a career and retired by the time I was 55 and hanging out at the lake house. Oh wow.
Well, you ever get up to Leech Lake and Cass Lake there, Robert, you let me know, because you don't have to be 55 to come have a good time up there, relax, and take in all the activities up there.
Yeah, let's switch gears just for a second because really you do have the best wild rice. I do have to say that because at Native Roots Radio, we have a Native Roots trading post at the State Fair and at Shakopee Poway Bluff, and we sell that and people love it.
So just so you know, I have to build relationships with all 11 tribes. So, I will be. They at least know where my heart is, and they know what I'll say where I do rice. But yeah, I agree, Robert. I'm not going to hold back.
Heck, we got to have you on the show more often, and then Haley and I will get up there when it's ricing season and get in that canoe with you.
Well, just for FYI, so I also serve on the Natural Resource Advisory Committee for Leech Lake, and we have our first ricing committee meeting tonight. So once I get off of this interview, I'm actually going to go over and get on that call, and we'll be setting our hunting and fishing dates for Leech Lake, and then also start talking about our rice beds and which ones will be there. So we're only a couple weeks away, Robert.
Wow, that's cool. Ho Chunk coming up there to Leech Lake. That's very cool. Sounds very cool.
Well, and one thing about Leech Lake is they have exclusive jurisdiction over wild rice. So whether you're a tribal member or non-tribal member, everybody's got to go to the Division of Resource Management for Leech Lake to get a permit. And I think one of the things that I feel fortunate about is just about how blessed that Mahnomen is. That's the abundance that's up there, and you can feed yourself with one handful each day.
Wow, really good. And remind our listeners, because we have listeners all over the state and state of Wisconsin, talk about the Ojibwe legend of finding food floating on ground.
So our ancestors were on the east coast, and that our legends talk about these 7 places along the journey along the Great Lakes, but then we'll reach a place where the food grows on water. And if you ever see a wild rice, see rice, a rice bed, it's something to really be something beautiful, something that where you're sitting there and you want to heal yourself and feel good, and knowing that that's there, and the creators put that for you there to eat, feed yourself, and heal your body and your spirit. Just go look at a rice bed, especially coming up in the next few weeks, because it just the wind blows a little bit and just waves at you. Those rice heads are just there. It's a wonderful sight, especially when you see ricing poles go through it, and you see Nijis out there, friends out there, and people are other human beings out there gathering it.
Yeah. Wow. We're with Levi Brown, Minnesota Department of Transportation's Director of Indian Affairs. That's before I forget, that's how to get a hold of you and what the website is, so our listeners out there that were driving and now pulling over with their pens can write this down, because they might be like me where I have a good memory, but it's short. Ooh.
So the best way to do it is just tribesandtransportation.com. It'll bring you right to our, Office of Tribal Affairs from MnDOT. We kind of coined that Tribes and Transportation because we're kind of early in the game. At the same time, you can find my cell phone and my contact number online in that same website, and I can help guide you to any employment opportunities or questions you might have, or just in general what MnDOT does. And I hope everybody listening is I hope my phone blows up a little bit. Let's put it that way. I get some phone calls of people interested.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I want to get my young Chujunk here on in the last couple minutes. Haley, who's a Gen Zer, do you have any questions? Because this is amazing for an old person like me to hear that MnDOT has a tribal liaison, and reaching out specifically to the Native community. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's really important that we kind of go back and redevelop these relationships with state officials and state government offices. I remember we had Wabin on last year from MnDOT, who gave a really great interview, and I was just so surprised at the many different job positions that are available. Can you repeat some of those?
So we're more than just snow plows and maintenance and plowing. We're bridge inspectors. We're GIS specialists. Office of Land Management, surveying engineers for whether it's civil engineering or we also have a need for computer specialists. Our office minute, who takes care of our technology. We have attorneys, position for attorneys, mapping specialists, and we actually have an office for kind of which I think is I'm very proud of, but our office that works with civil rights and looking after our veterans and other groups to make sure that our contracts and how we do our business and work. I think those are all unique opportunities that pretty fortunate to have that under one umbrella.
Wow, good question, Haley. Wow, we're really fortunate to really amplify this this message out there because again, this is like really a beautiful thing that the state's doing, and I feel really good about amplifying your message, Levi.
And again, I think what's really unique is where I'm at right now. I'm up in Grand Portage, up at the northeastern part of our state in Grand Portage Nation, and I think that if I can say anything about this is this work is being led by Indian country as a whole. I'm just a part of it. I'm a cog in the wheel, but tribal leadership, tribal staff, everybody's working to rechange those norms. And so when young people in the next generation are thinking about employment or where they're going to work, they'll be work looking at the state as an opportunity to really continue that work and improve lives not only for all state citizens but Indian country and those living on reservations.
Wow, a big Pinigi. Thank you, Levi. We got to do this again soon. Really great information, great energy. Levi Brown, Tribal Affairs for MnDOT. Really nice. Up next, Haley, what we got going on? I know it's something important, right?
Yeah, we're going to have Mary on, the director and writer of the Bad River documentary. Stay with us.
Right on. Thanks, Levi.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hi, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. If you need new windows for your home or business, I highly recommend 952 Windows. They offer windows and doors with the longest warranties and Energy Star's #1 most efficient ratings. I can personally vouch for them, having known the owner for decades. They did a fantastic job on our second floor addition 20 years ago, installing windows, roofing, siding, and even adding a master bedroom and bathroom. 952 Windows is part of Loyal Home, founded by some of the Ethics award-winning former Window Light employees. In my opinion, they're one of the most best-kept secrets in remodeling. As Onyx Bath and Rosebud cabinet dealers, 952 Windows guarantees top-quality products. Most of their business comes from referrals, so much so that they have been called the best-kept secret in remodeling by their competitors. For unbeatable deals and trusted service on windows, doors, roofing, siding, kitchens, bathrooms, and more, call 952 Windows or visit 952windows.com.
You may have seen a certain truck in videos being shared on social media. How about the truth? I have yet to see any video of that truck outperforming the Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. I've driven Sienna since 2006. They handle the highways great, handle back roads, and handle 3 inches of snow a lot easier than the so-called super truck. Plus, my Sienna hybrid is super fuel efficient, tows great, has enough room for tons of gear, and doesn't look like it was drawn by a 6-year-old. Sienna wins. Test drive the top of its class Sienna today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 65, then Friday rain and thunderstorms with a high of 75. If you need new windows, doors, or more, choose 952 Windows. They offer top-tier quality, unbeatable warranties, and Energy Star's most efficient ratings. Part of Loyal Home, 952 Windows is trusted by even their competitors' employees. Schedule them today at 952windows.com.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Well, Haley, we have an awesome guest on today, Mary Mazzio, and we're going to be talking about the Bad River film documentary. And Mary, thank you so much. You directed and wrote this documentary, and it's just a beautiful piece of art and work, and what a great message. Thank you so much for coming on to Native Roots Radio.
Oh, listen, it's my pleasure, and I'm humbled to be here with you, Robert. Thank you so much.
Well, Haley and I watched it, not together, but we definitely watched it, and Haley's got some great notes on this. And I know, Haley, your favorite part was the last 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and it was emotional. Haley, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so we can give a little preview of what the film that we're talking about. This is the Bad River film documentary narrated by Quanah Chasing Horse and Academy Award nominee Edward Norton, written and directed by award-winning filmmaker who we're joined with right now, Mary Mazzio. Bad River is a documentary film which chronicles the Wisconsin-based Bad River Band and its ongoing fight for sovereignty. This is a story which unfolds in a groundbreaking way through a series of shocking revelations, devastating losses, and a powerful legacy of defiance and resilience, which includes kind of that David versus Goliath, to quote, kind of battle to save Lake Superior. So this is a really great documentary, very educational, and everyone, needs to see it. Mary, where can people find this documentary right now?
So right now, if you're an Xfinity member, we're streaming on Xfinity. We will be debuting this fall on Peacock, so we'll have a very wide release this fall. In the meanwhile, special events are happening. If any of your listeners are interested, badriverfilm.com/dates. We've got upcoming events where you can stream it. And so lots of events and activities are happening around the film. Thank you for that question, Haley. We're actually just out of theaters, and the film lasted amazingly almost 2 months in 25 major markets, which is like a huge feat for an indie documentary. So we're really excited about the reception that the film has had and the impact that the project is having kind of in real time.
Yeah, I know it showed up here in Minneapolis, and there was a big buzz, and people were asking me if we watched it, if we saw it. I'd run into people, and that's exciting. We have our Enbridge story here in Minnesota, and so we can relate. One of the really, really awesome things about this documentary for me was that you really put a lot of the Native story surrounded by this pipeline action.
Thank you. And honestly, that I can take no credit for that, quite honestly. When we began interviewing Bad River elders, it was really extraordinary because they said, oh yeah, we'll talk about this current pipeline challenge that we're facing with a pipeline that's now at risk of rupture that cuts through the heart of our reservation. But did you hear about the fight we had a few years ago over the mountaintop removal mining project in the Pinocchis? And then it was like, well, did you hear about the trainloads of sulfuric acid that were going to come across rickety train tracks? And did you hear about this? And did you hear about that? And all of these stories of resistance came really tumbling out. And so the film meandered, just like the Bad River is meandering. And the film really went from, a story about the pipeline crisis to one that became just this historical retrospective of defiance and resilience. And I'll tell you, Robert, I started getting chills when some of the elders were recounting these stories, because it was so exciting to understand in real time the history of resilience.
Yeah, and resistance. The American Indian movement started here in Minnesota, and I know you had a really nice piece about that in the starting, and how the resistance and resilience of our relatives here in the Twin Cities, which we have the largest Native American population in the country. And so the movie was here for a week, and there was nothing but raves here, and I can't wait to see it again on Peacock. Yeah.
And it was actually, Robert, it lasted more than a week in Minnesota. I think we were there for almost 6 weeks, because AMC Cinemas, like, they called us up and they said, guess what? We're extending. Guess what? We're extending again. So, to have that sort of receptivity for a film like this has just been, humbling in so many ways. And by the way, credit where credit is due. I had an extraordinary team that included Allison Abner. Allison is a writer. She was a writer for Narcos and West Wing. And she hails from the Stockbridge Muncie Band. So she had this amazing and acute awareness and understanding of Native history generally. But she was so thoughtful and disciplined from a storytelling standpoint.
Well, when it comes to storytelling too, I never heard this, but it really put a big smile on my face. And a lot of it has to do with Native American interpretation, but also our sense of humor. When things would happen, the quote was, when things would happen, an eagle would land on the moon. And finish that story. That was amazing.
That was outrageous. So I think it was Edith Leoso that was recounting to me, she was talking about the birth of the American Indian movement, of course, AIM, and other groups that began to really lead the way in terms of what does it mean to have tribal sovereignty, and what do you mean you're not going to honor our treaties, and what does this mean about the land that we're legally entitled to. And so she recounted this story, this prophecy, that a great day will come for Native peoples when the eagle lands on the moon. And she said, and of course we all knew the eagle is never going to land on the moon. Well, guess what happens, right? With Apollo, I think it was Apollo 11.
Yeah.
And, of course you have the classic, crackle of the mic, and, the eagle has landed.
Yeah. And then they took notice to that and really got busy.
And they got busy. That's exactly right. And you had this unleashing of activism and awareness, which was really, really exciting.
Well, and back up just a little bit too about our history. And history has not been the history books have not been good to Native Americans in films. But just to back up with it, you put all this history compacted in a beautiful way, told in a beautiful way, about boarding schools, about the BIA, and about the struggles that we've had as Native Americans being the first people here.
And, again, that was really driven by Bad River elders and the stories that they wanted to tell. And I think, certainly as a non-Native, bearing witness to these stories for me was so eye-opening, particularly from a value standpoint. And when you step back, the Bad River people, time and time again, like Native people everywhere, history has been written in such a way where it is, the cowboy that prevailed, right? The founding of the West. And in fact, how history has been written has been woefully misinformed. And I don't know how history could have or has been taught without the history of Native peoples. And so I think the film has been so illuminating, especially for non-Native students. We do know of many, many school districts that are busing their children into theaters to see Bad River on the big screen. And, as a filmmaker, that is so exciting because it means a new generation of young people can have better awareness, and be much more fully educated about the issues that affect Native peoples in this country that are ongoing, as you well know.
Well, and one of the issues too is that we are dual citizens. I mean, a lot of people, not that many people are on the reservation. Like, for instance, Red Lake, half of their 17,000 tribal members live in the Twin Cities and the other half live on reservations. So we're not these reservation people, and we're proud of both. A lot of our both are being the dual citizens. We're proud of both of our countries that we're in.
I think that's exactly right. And certainly as it relates to Bad River, I mean, again, if you step back, you look at this really small group of people, and with monumental effort, they are fighting to protect Lake Superior, which of course is one of the world's most precious resources. But you see these fights playing out everywhere across America, led by Native citizens. And what struck me, especially as a non-Native, was this idea, and it's something that the Bad River former chairman Mike Wiggins said to me just a few weeks ago. He said, look, this fight, we're not fighting to protect Lake Superior just for us, but we're protecting Lake Superior for the country with increasing, weather unpredictability, extreme weather. There is going to be a dire necessity for more of the country to draw on Lake Superior for fresh drinking water. And he said, we're fighting at huge personal cost this pipeline that is at risk of rupture, and we're doing it because it's our patriotic duty. And that just struck me like a ton of bricks. And I thought to myself, just that value system, we are doing this for all of us, is so antithetical to so many of us that are, rugged individualists or pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And I need my package yesterday. And right, like if we could as a country be more thoughtful of community in the way the Bad River people and other Native peoples are, boy, we would be making America great again.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, we are here with Mary Mazzio, the director of an award filmmaker, and we're talking about Bad River, but we're talking about a lot of things that have to do with this documentary, this great documentary, and we're gonna, talk a little more. We're so excited to have you on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Wabin. I am an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, descendant of the Navajo Nation, and co-chair of the Indigenous Employee Resource Group with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. MnDOT is hiring for a variety of positions from road maintenance to accounting and more. We offer great benefits. For more information or to set up a one-on-one resume and application assistance, visit mn.gov/careers, or you can text or call 612-257-2388. 612-257-2388.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota's senior health options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh! Wow, we are kicking butt here on Native Roots Radio. We have Mary Mazzio, director and writer of the documentary Bad River, and we are just touching the surface here of this great documentary that can be seen soon on Peacock and in November 1st. Welcome back, Mary, and I want to kind of direct this question about the crust of the documentary, and then talk about the importance about addressing this Enbridge thing and their pipeline struggle with Line 5. We've had it here, and the Bad River Reservation in northern Wisconsin is really being attacked by a foreign company with lots of money.
Yes, and I think, the challenge is that Line 5 cuts through the heart of the reservation, directly bisects the Bad River Band's land. And it is today, as the lower court, federal court judge Connolly found, at imminent risk of rupture. That is terrifying because it means in a matter of hours, if there is a rupture, there is a catastrophe for Lake Superior. And I think, notwithstanding the many talking points that one often hears about this story, there are two really important facts. One is that a series of rights that Enbridge had to operate this pipeline across the reservation over about 3 miles expired 10 years ago. In other words, they no longer have the legal right to operate the pipeline. I think that's really important to know, in addition to the pipeline today being at profound risk of rupture. The second point, and this often gets lost, this is not a story about oil or about how many consumers and Canadian consumers are dependent upon this oil. This is a pipeline that moves oil from Western Canada to Eastern Canada. How it came to dip down into the United States when it was constructed in the 50s is really fascinating. But long story short, it was cheaper and easier to construct the pipeline through the United States than directly west to east in Canada. So in any event, the Bad River Band has not benefited in any material way from the existence of this pipeline. The first 40 years were effectively free to the company to operate. But at the end of the day, we as a country, we're net exporters of oil. This has nothing to do this is not a story about oil at all. Mm-hmm. There are many, many ways to transport oil. And this is a story about a piece of aging infrastructure operating really in a place where it never belonged in the first place and where it no longer has the legal right to operate.
Wow, absolutely. And, we talk about, especially when we were fighting Dakota Access Pipeline and Line 3 here in Minnesota and the Dakotas, we talk about the Kalamazoo rupture that pipelines leak, period. That's all we know, and sometimes we don't hear about them, and sometimes it's catastrophic.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up. I mean, Kalamazoo and the epic disaster, it was lines 6A and 6B that were Enbridge lines that ruptured. I think it was the costliest inland oil spill in the history of America. And that, of course, was not very far away from the Bad River Band. And so the Bad River Band hears about Kalamazoo, and all of a sudden there's a conversation. Well, wait a minute. Aren't we sitting on Enbridge lines? Isn't that who's right? But, aren't those lines right beneath our feet? And Enbridge, of course, their rights expired only 2 years after Kalamazoo. So Kalamazoo was fresh in the minds of the tribal council. And as elders recall and former tribal council members recall, they started asking the company very difficult questions. How old are these lines? Right? Today, the line is 70 years old, 71 years old. How safe is it? What's your data? You keep coming onto the reservation to do what you call anomaly digs. What's an anomaly? Why are you doing these digs? What are you doing when you do these digs? And as elders recall, there was a lack of transparency from the company in terms of what was truly happening, which led them to this confrontation in the first place, where they said, you're asking us for a right to extend your operations here on the reservation, and we are not going to agree to that. And that was the opening salvo to this battle.
Yeah. Wow. I have to say something too about this documentary. Watching this is like one of the most beautifully shot and edited documentaries I've ever seen, even if it wasn't about what it's about with the content. I was just amazed by the beauty of the shots that you and your editor chose to take, along with the talking heads, of course. But there's some beautiful shots there, and some vintage footage of like an Enbridge commercial, and it's an amazing visual documentary too. I just gotta say that.
Oh, thank you for that. And many people don't really realize sort of what goes into the making of these, but from a production standpoint, as you can imagine, given the remoteness of the area, right? It took a lot of people, you got to house and feed them, and right. So we had a small, village of people working on this, including, by the way, a number of Bad River members themselves. And we shot on the Alexa, which is a sort of, major Hollywood films are shot on the Alexa. We had drones. We had 4K drones. We lost one into the Bad River, which was, I think, Chaz Connors tried to come to the rescue with a whole team of people, diving into the Bad River looking for that missing drone. But we, sort of my going in attitude is, you have these extraordinary people fighting for something that is much bigger than all of us, and the visual story should reflect that sort of heroic and valiant effort.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Haley, we only got a couple minutes left here. I know you watched it too. What is your feeling, and do you have any questions for Mary before we end this great segment?
Yeah, I mean, the whole documentary was just an amazing piece of work, and including the visual shots, but also the soundtrack and the opening scene with the drum, and it just really draws you in right away. And yeah, just I really appreciated the fact that you touched on a lot of subjects, like kind of how Allotment Act and how forced assimilation to larger cities kind of, led to higher rates of substance abuse and the opioid epidemic, and also touched on crime and police brutality. So, I mean, all in all, the whole documentary is just, everyone needs to see this. So again, can we shout out kind of the platforms and where people can see this Bad River documentary?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we're just out of theaters, but people can view the film. If your listeners go to badriverfilm.com/dates, then we've got all kinds of events happening around the country. We have where you can personally stream it. The film will launch publicly onto a larger platform beginning on November 1st with Peacock, and our friends at Comcast, NBC Universal have been really extraordinary in terms of their support of the project. And so, we would be thrilled for your listeners to see the film. And then if they're so moved to take action, we do have a take action button as well on our website and ways you might consider donating to support the Bad River Band.
Wow, perfect. Mary Mazzio, Bad River documentary. Thank you so much for being on Native Roots Radio. We got to do this again real soon.
Oh, Robert and Haley, thank you so much for having me. It's been a privilege, and really appreciate your thoughtful questions.
Right on. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops. The ground which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, vote, vote, vote. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier. Now.
Get ready to laugh out loud with Matt Matthews at the State Theater